Hello, welcome along to another football show here at Betfred, where it is quite literally the final countdown, isn't it? We've got the Champions League on Saturday, and of course it was the Europa League last night, and disappointment for Manchester United. Also got the playoffs as well. They'll come to a conclusion, and we're looking ahead to the Euros. So plenty to talk about in this latest edition, which is handy because we've got a couple of guys who like the sound of their own voice. Former Sunderland colleagues. Mickey Gray, how are you first, Mickey?
Very well, thank you. His voice is a little bit louder than mine, but I'm all good.
Yeah, let you get the first word in. It's probably the only time you will. This man as well, your former teammate, Nicky Summerbee, basking in the sunshine in the Middle East, Nicky.
Yes, it's wonderful. About 110 degrees out here. Absolutely roasting. But just what you said then, excited. It's a big weekend coming up. And obviously for my ex-side, Manchester City, can they go and get big ears? The big question for me, but we'll go into it later on with a little bit more depth.
Certainly will. We've got a lot to talk about. Might well be the best looking panel we've had this. What do you think? Is he lower in the average, Nicky Summerbee?
That can't be me. No one's ever said that to me. Now, the boy there, just on my left, Mr. Gray, out of Baywatch, maybe.
I don't want to picture you in any red tight shorts, Nicky. Let's get to the end of things. Right, let's talk about Manchester United. Again, we'll give you the first word. We'll let the former City man bask in what you're going to say here, because it was real disappointment for United. It went to a penalty shootout. It was the ultimate drama in a penalty shootout. And I know this is a little bit of a sore point for you, having missed the penalty in a big match.
Well, I certainly know how David De Gea is feeling, because I've been in the same situation myself, and it's never nice. But when you go so far through the competition, you get to the final, and then it comes down to penalties. You basically want it tied up after 5, because they're the 5 that basically want to take the penalties, and everybody after that have said no to the manager first and foremost. So, yeah, everybody took their penalties. We saw some fantastic ones. We obviously saw some quite fortunate ones. And I do feel for goalkeepers. I mean, most of them probably don't want to step up and take a penalty.
But don't you put your leather through it? Because nobody hits the ball as hard as a keeper.
Yeah.
So thumping it upfield, aren't they?
No, exactly, yeah. I mean, he tried to place it, obviously. I mean, it was a simple save for the keeper in the end, wasn't it? But if you think about his penalty, it was absolutely fantastic, wasn't it? But, yeah, 11-10 or whatever it finished, I mean, it was that was probably the most exciting that the game got.
Yeah, they were poor United.
For the 120 minutes, I thought they were so below par. I know it's been a long season for them, but when you get to a final, you've got to dig deep and you've got to find something in you to pick up that trophy come the end of the game. But they just never really looked threatening. Cavani was a little bit lively. I thought Pogba started the game quite well. Mason Greenwood. But other than that, I just thought they were very, very poor.
And Rashford didn't turn up either.
Marcus Rashford, it was a real strange one, because, you know, when you think about putting somebody on the big stage and, you know, you've got pace, you've had a decent season, your goals per game have been absolutely fantastic, and he just didn't turn up. Every time you looked at him, he looked as if he was kind of moping around. His body language was poor. He wasn't helping out his fullback, Luke Shaw. But if you go through the whole team, I just thought it was a really, really poor performance. And maybe even from the manager as well. Why not make changes and so late on? I didn't understand that at all. Unai Emery got it spot on when he made his changes. He tried to freshen things up. They were always going to be tactical. They were always going to get everybody behind the ball. They got themselves in front with obviously the great ball in from the free kick. And then it was up to Manchester United to break them down. And I just don't think they had the tools to do it. And moving forward, everybody's talking about 3 players they need to make them better, to challenge Man City for that Premier League next season. Forget it. They need more than 3.
Yeah, probably half the team. I'm sure as a former City man, Nicky, you took no delight from that United performance. It wasn't good enough, was it?
No, it wasn't, no. I mean, Solskjaer's I think he's had a good season, and it would have rounded it off with winning the trophy. And then, obviously, as Mickey said then, doing good business. They can't afford to make any more mistakes. They can't afford to spend fortunes on players which don't produce. So recruitment is massive for them. And it just leaves a little bit of a bad taste in your mouth, because finishing second, get that trophy, try and get Kane, try and get a couple of other players which you probably think right through the centre of the pitch, someone alongside Maguire, which I think's needed. But it just leaves you a little bit now thinking, are they a little bit further away than what we actually thought? It was just disappointing. A lot of big players out there. I know you said at the start, Mickey, that Pogba started off okay. You've got to get more from him. That is his stage. He's a World Cup winner. You've got to have someone on the pitch there that's going to drive the team forward. And I just don't see that. I understand it's a difficult season, but you look at the two teams, you look at the two clubs. What are they? Villarreal, 7th in their poor league, you do have to say. And you look at Manchester United and you think, well, go on, you're a better team, you've got a better squad. But they just never showed it. They never had that drive. They never had that endeavour. They couldn't open the door with them. Players, it's a bit difficult. It's another level for United. This is where all of a sudden teams make it difficult. You've got to break them down. You can't hit them on that counter-attack, which we know they're good at. And I just thought it just didn't happen at all for Solskjaer. So from what could have ended up as a really good season with the trophy finishing second, it just leaves you with that little bit of a sour taste.
Yeah, it's the 63rd match, I think, for Manchester United's players. However, if you can't lift yourself for Europa final, then there's no point in playing the game,
well, that's
Mickey?
the big problem, Jason. And when I was looking at I saw the starting 11 and Fred wasn't playing, so I think everybody was optimistic because he's been getting a lot of criticism over the last few weeks. They looked as if they had a strong 11. I know they're obviously going to miss somebody like Harry Maguire. Whether you love him or hate him, he is their best centre-half.
Yeah.
No question about that. But Nick makes some good points there. We're all talking about them signing Cavani on a New Year contract. Now, he's 34. He's going to be on 35 years old next season. Now, is that a guy who is a wonderful player? His movement's fantastic and he will learn the younger guys who are around him, people like Mason Greenwood. But it's not enough. If you're going into a Premier League season relying on a 35-year-old man to pick up silverware for you come the end of the season, then you're going to be in trouble. You really are. I know they've got Martial to come back.
But he's not a number 9, is he?
No, absolutely not. And then you talk about Rashford and Greenwood, who I think is going to be an absolute world beater. I really do. But is it maybe a couple of seasons too early for him? You go into that midfield area. Fred, McTominay, who I thought was probably Manchester United's best player. Sorry, I missed him out earlier on. His work ethic is absolutely fantastic. But that's what Manchester United needed, work ethic, and it wasn't there. So do you point the finger at the manager or do you point the finger at the players? Because you just never got the best out of them. So there's something wrong there. You looked at that bench and you were maybe scratching your head and thinking, well, how can they change it to make them any better? And I think that's probably why he didn't make those changes, because he just didn't have any faith in his substitutes.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask Nicky that. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer says it's not the time to point fingers of what we could have done different. It could have changed the goalkeeper. We know Henderson is better on saving spot kicks than De Gea. But, I mean, hindsight's a wonderful thing, Nicky, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. You can't really say that. When it did come to me at the end, you'd have thought he'd put it away. But it's difficult when everyone scores the penalties. And as Mickey says there, you've got your ones who on the training ground who are happy to take the penalties. As they start scoring like they did, it's the ones that aren't too comfortable doing it. And that's someone had to lose at the end, and it was De Gea. Is that the end of his time at Manchester United? That's one of the decisions what United have to look at. Obviously, Paul Pogba, you have to look with him. He's after a new deal. I mean, De Gea is after a new deal. I find that some of these players are getting rewarded for not doing what they should be doing for me. Pogba, for me, he's after a new deal. I just think it's a massive summer and they have to get it right. I don't think they're far away, United. I really don't think that. But it's so vitally important that they get it right. They've got to. They can't afford to make mistakes. They can't have a Lukaku. They can't have a Sancho. They can't have these players when it doesn't happen. If you're going to make a statement and you're going to go for Kane, for the fact that he's going to score goals, but is the rest of the team, is it a struggling team what's not going to give him them opportunities? So it's a massive summer for Manchester United.
It's a strength
and the flip
depth,
side of that
Nick.
is, are they going to spend this? Are they going to spend the money? Are these big clubs going to spend the money with the financial problems at the moment? So it's quite a tricky time for United.
I think it's the strength and depth, Nick. That's the big worry for Manchester United. I think their starting 11 is actually quite strong, but when you look at the bench, there's a lot of players who've been around that football club for a long time who haven't done anything over the last 4 or 5 seasons. When you look at Manchester City's first team squad, the players who are obviously going to come into that starting 11 when Guardiola leaves players out, it's so strong, and there's a gulf between the two football clubs at the moment on the playing side of things. And then you bring in the manager to it, Pep Guardiola, who is just the best in the world. They've got to try and claw that gap. How they finished second this season, when you look at Chelsea's squad, Liverpool were obviously disappointing at home. I think there's a big job there to be done. I mean, you're talking about bringing in 3 players into the starting 11. Then you look at the bench. I mean, how do you strengthen it without going to spend 150 to 200 million quid?
But Mickey, what you have to do there is obviously with your Pogba, with the players. I mean, Cavani, what have they had to do? They've had to fight for him to get another year out of him. You know what? If you look at Manchester City, and I know it's not comparing the two now, but when the owners first came in, from Mark Hughes, from Mancini, Pellegrini, every one of those managers, the players what came in, there's not any bad players. Every player has been part of the vision of the football club. You know, and then all of a sudden, then Guardiola comes in and he tweaks it to play this football. Obviously, the goalkeeper coming in, certain players to play that way. But all those managers and all those players what came into Manchester City have produced. You know, the money what has been spent at Manchester United, have the players produced? Have they lived up to the money what was paid for them? Have they got better? No. That's why they can't afford to do that anymore. So I think it's time now, if you want to get De Gea off the wage list, Pogba, that frees a bit of money up. The boy Van Beek, feel ever so sorry for him. I think that's the strangest signing I've ever seen, that spending the money what they did with him and not any interest at all of him playing. So obviously it looks like he can go. They've got to try and get some revenue in to try and move it around a little bit. And I know you're going to say, well, that's going to make the squad even smaller, but surely they've got to manoeuvre it around a little bit and get rid of some of that dead wood. And obviously they can bring more players in. It's not easy. This
is the thing, Jason, just with the Man United squad there. Nick mentioned a few players. I mean, Donny van der Beek, £40-odd million. Manchester City don't make mistakes like that.
Yeah.
You know, that's a £40 million player that's probably started less than a handful of games. You keep bringing him off the bench. He's on the bench last night. You've got to scratch your head at where this recruitment's coming from.
Yeah.
You know, you have a brilliant season before. You're playing for Ajax. Then you come into Manchester United. It's a big leap. Man City don't make mistakes like that. And when you look at Liverpool over the last 2 or 3 seasons, they haven't made mistakes like that. Manchester United, for some reason, the recruitment at that football club has just completely gone wrong.
Yeah, but Mickey, it's perfect what you're saying there, though. But what is a coach's job? A coach's job to make players better. You tell you something. You look at Mourinho. He's got an asset there, an asset of Del Alli. He's absolutely just disregarded the player. You have to make him better. You have to make the team better. Klopp does that. Guardiola does that. Bielsa does that. You've got to get players playing better. That's your job, surely, from being a coach. That's the least you should do.
Yeah, we could debate United all day, couldn't we? But I tell you what, we've been talking about City, so let's move straight on to the Champions League final. You talked about Pep Guardiola. It seems to have been, Nicky, your former club, that this has been the end game, hasn't it, for City to win the Champions League and prove they're the best in the land?
Absolutely, yeah. There's a lot of critics as well saying, well, he spent a lot of money, not really taking much notice of what they've done domestically, which has been far superior. And obviously, I think for the owners, the fans, the players, the club, to take it to that next level, to give them that belief. You think about the time when Aguero scored the winner, when they hadn't won the league for many years, and all of a sudden it's like they're up there challenging because they believe it now. Well, they have to come through this to start believing that they're really up there with the big boys, and they should be. Everything about the club, the way it's run, everything about the players, everything about Guardiola. 2 difficult seasons they've had. I mean, it's for everybody. It's like back-to-back seasons. From 1 minute, what you're 8th, 9th in the league, to turn it around like what they did in all competitions, and all of a sudden they're where they want to be now. And I look at them, and I look at Guardiola, and I see a man what is happy with life in Manchester at the football club. I think he looks at the English game, and he looks at the FA Cups, the early rounds, the Carabao Cups, early round, and he's realised, hang on a minute. There's ways in which we can win games of football. It hasn't got to be that all-out, energetic football. We can control what we're doing in games. And obviously the big squad, what Mickey was saying, that helps an awful lot. But everybody, if you change it, they all know the jobs. And I just think it's a case of him just putting the players out. They will do the same on a training pitch. They'll do the same if they're in the very early stages of the FA Cup, and they'll do the same in the Champions League final. I just think it's there for them. They deserve it. But it's a one-off game of football. They're 19 points ahead of Chelsea. I think you throw that all away. Chelsea have beaten them twice. All right, City weren't playing at the best, and they tinkered with it. Aguero gets that second goal at the Etihad. That's possibly a different story. I don't see that. I see Manchester City giving a big performance. And Chelsea would have to, for me, if they're going to win it, they would have to give a performance like Liverpool did against Barcelona a couple of seasons ago and stop them. use that energetic play, and hopefully when they get the opportunities, put it away. But it's theirs for Manchester City because of the style, what they play in. They control games of football. They'll let Chelsea have the ball. They let Paris Saint-Germain have the ball, which they never used to. And then all of a sudden, when the time is right, then they can come into the game. And everybody seems to know their jobs and the movement in the team. And they deserve it. They really do. But it's not as easy as that. Chelsea are going to make it difficult for them.
Yeah, very pragmatic approach now from Guardiola. I think everybody's said that. But, I mean, Chelsea have had the upper hand on them a couple of times. And does that come into it at all here? They beat them in the FA Cup semi-final. Nobody really gave Chelsea a chance. So City will know they have to play well because Chelsea do have players that can hurt you.
No, absolutely. It's for sure. It's definitely not a walkover. I think, I don't know if it's the same page as what Nick's thinking now as well, but I think Chelsea will sit back. I think they try and soak up as much pressure as they possibly can from Man City because you know exactly what you're going to get. They'll have a lot of possession themselves and they'll use those midfield players and they'll try and burst forward.
They do break quick, Chelsea, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
You know, when you've got the likes of Pulisic taking the ball, whoever he plays, they can get forward. Mason Mount can shift it.
Havertz, Werner, they've got some really, really good players. And I think what's key to them is Kante. And I believe he started training, so I think he's obviously trying his hardest to get in the starting 11, which, Thomas Tuchel, he absolutely loves him, doesn't he? So if he's fit, he's going to play. But it'll be a very tactical game. I think in a different sense, it'll be set up similar to what we saw Villarreal, Manchester United. And they'll try and catch them with that pace and quality that they've got. I'm talking about Chelsea here.
Yeah.
But Man City, they've just got brilliance everywhere, haven't they? Kevin De Bruyne, Phil Foden has just had the season of a lifetime. So young, but just a special, special talent. But he's basically, what Pep Guardiola's done over this season, he's rewritten the DNA of football, hasn't he? Without playing with centre forwards.
Yeah.
Because their movement is just absolutely fantastic. And the way that you look at the way they play, and their movement's so good. Mahrez is another one. What a season he's had. He's been brilliant in Europe as well. But it's a game that I think everybody's looking forward to seeing. But what happens for me in the Champions League, and I think this has happened over the last 5 or 6 seasons, maybe not last season with Bayern Munich, sometimes the best team domestically doesn't necessarily win the Champions League. But I think everybody would hold their hands up and say, if Man City go on to win the Champions League, they are the best team in Europe because we've seen them every single week, how good they are, the football they play, how entertaining they are. Nick mentioned the thing before about managers improving players. He does it with everybody. But their signings, Ruben Diaz, I didn't know too much about him before he came to the Premier League. What a signing. But they don't go out and break the bank. They don't go and spend 90, 100 million pounds. It's 40, 50, 60, 65, 70 million pound players.
Yeah.
And he just puts them all together. And what a squad of players they've got. You see the camaraderie. Quick little story. So, I was not last week, the week before. They had a golf charity day, and I, funny enough, was playing golf at the same golf course as the whole team. Every single player, the manager, the coaching staff, the masseurs, everybody was there. They were all having a beer, enjoying themselves. And I love that. That's coming away from football, everybody being together. And that's why they are where they are today. Yeah,
I was going to say, I'm sure Nicky Summerby and Mickey Gray have had a few beers together in the past because that's important.
I was great at that. I'm rubbish at football. I would just say what Mickey said there. You look at Gundogan as well. What a season he's had. Yeah. But for me, if you're talking about betting and you're looking at scenarios, as the game goes on, Aguero comes to come on the pitch. What is it? 3 goals in 3 games. It could have been 4 if the Chelsea penalty didn't go in. You look at the goals. The ones at Palace, phenomenal. That one goal sums up what he's all about. The first touch, the hit. It's an instinct. The 2 goals against Everton. I just think there's a story there. I really do. As the game goes on, if they're going to sit back, they did struggle to break them down in the FA Cup semi-final. Got to say that. They did do. But it's just great to have someone like Aguero. And the story's there. The book can be closed. And if there's a man who can do it and he gets that chance, he's the difference. I look at the boy Werner. I know it's a difficult season he's had, but he's not an out-and-out centre-forward for me. I know he's been unlucky because he scored a lot of goals and had them disallowed, but I don't see... I'm going to compare the pair of them, Aguero and Werner. Aguero is a natural finisher. He does it automatically. Werner, I don't see that. It's got to be a couple of chances. And that could be the difference. I would maybe play Giroud? Can he put Giroud up there and can he feed off him? You know, you're looking at Chelsea. They're 2 World Cup winners with Kante and Giroud. You know, I think on set pieces they struggle a little bit if the ball is decent into the box. Ziyech is a wonderful delivery. I worry a little bit with Chilwell when he goes forward. I mean, I've never seen any fullback go as far forward as what he does. He's around the penalty spot sometimes. Maybe if he goes forward, is there a little bit of space in behind there? So I would imagine that this is what the managers are looking at, though. But for me, it's Aguero. Just as the game goes on, the longer it goes on, and you can put your bets on, get your bets on Aguero getting the winner.
There you go. A marauding left back. Imagine that, Mickey Gray. In the penalty box.
He used to get there and then get a bloody nose.
Yeah.
Well, but no, watch. Yeah, but watch as the game goes on. I mean, it's a bit different with him because he's got Mahrez. But just watch him. I don't think I've seen anybody. He goes past and beyond. Mickey went far forward, but he's going into the box and then waiting for crosses on the opposite side and staying in the box.
Yeah, you get forward and you get back, don't you? That's the game, isn't it?
Deserves to be punished.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an important position now. It's wing back as well, isn't it? So they're obviously going to play with the 3 centre halves.
Yeah, so they've got some comfort behind or some protection.
So he gets that licence to break forward. And Nick's right. I mean, you saw the last day of the season in the Premier League how many opportunities he had from that penalty area. You know, a couple of them cleared off the line. One obviously got across the line. It wasn't enough for them, obviously, to win that game, but they obviously finished in those top 4 spots, which was probably the story when Tuchel walked through the door. But, yeah, I just think there's a lot of tactical things will go on. I think it'll be a little bit shady at the start of the game, as if, you know, they'll try and, work each other out.
Yeah.
But try and pick Man City's 11. Try and pick Chelsea's 11. I think we'll all have it in our heads. But I think it might be difficult to get them absolutely spot on.
Yeah, I'm not really going to debate who's going to win this, Mickey and Nicky, because I think you're both going to say City, aren't you? Is it City for you, obviously, Nicky? City and an Aguero goal?
Yeah, I think comfortable, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
I think 2-3-0, I really do. And I'm not saying that, I might be wrong, but that's what Mickey just said then. For me, it's the same team as what played Paris Saint-Germain.
Yeah, well, it worked. Yeah, and for you, Mickey?
Fernandinho's got to play. He's got to do that holding role. I just think he's that quality in that he just holds it together.
Yeah, he's a key player, as he's Kante. Is it going to be that comfortable? I think it might be an odd goal in it. I could even see it going to extra time, I have to say.
I think Man City in the end. It'll all depend. I think this is how the games go, and it's crazy to say this. I think Chelsea need to score first to make it a game. If Man City score first, then they're going to win by 2 or 3.
Because City then have to press a little, and we know Chelsea can counter. And that is a little bit risky, isn't it?
But if Chelsea have to take the game to Man City, if Man City take the lead, they'll leave gaps, and that's when they'll get punished. I know Nick mentioned Aguero there. I think the only time we'll see Aguero come onto the field is if they're winning the game by 2 goals.
Or chasing the game by down 2 goals.
What Nick said is...
Hang on a minute. Hang on. Stop there, please. Michael, so hang on a minute. It's 0-0. And you're coming up to 75 minutes, and you've got a natural goal scorer. You're telling me they're not going to throw him on?
Very late on in the game.
Last 10 minutes, 15 minutes.
If it's 1-0, if Man City are winning 1-0, I just don't see him coming onto the field.
He's not sentimental in that way, is he?
Well, he's not, but I know Nick mentioned there about it being written in the stars, and I get all that. Yeah, what a send-off that would be for somebody like Aguero, because he's been so special, not just for Man City, but for the Premier League. The top European striker of all time, I mean, which is just absolutely incredible. The most goals for one team in the whole of the Premier League. He beat Wayne Rooney, didn't he, at the weekend just gone. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be one of them games, but I do think that Man City score first, they can win this game comfortably. Well,
let me give you their prices. So, City are 10-11. Chelsea are 7-2. It's 12-5 the draw. City in extra times at 9s. Chelsea 14s in extra time. If it goes to penalties, 11s for the pair, because it is a lottery. But you all agree, City, I think it might be tight. I will put my money on the draw. I'm sitting on the fence, I'm afraid. Right, let's go on to the playoffs, because the promised land of the Premier League is beckoning for either Brentford or Swansea. We've talked a lot about the big finals here, so we'll walk through quickly this, Mickey. Brentford against Swansea. Brentford, the obvious favourites here. Yeah, they've got to be. And what a well-run football club. It has been now for probably a dozen years. Uwe Rosli,
a friend of mine and Nick's. You know, he went into that football club working under people like Mark Warburton, who set the recruitment up, and they do give players the opportunity, but they find little stars, which they've done over the last 5 or 6 years.
Keep turning them out, don't they?
Exactly, yeah. So it just keeps them all churning around. But I think when you know, we've got to try and judge them on the playoffs. The second game against Bournemouth, I thought they were absolutely outstanding. They've got probably one of the stars of the Championship in Ivan Toney. Strong, physical. Look, he will play in the Premier League next season. Brentford will want it to be with them. But if they don't make it, he's going to find a club, because I think there's 5 or 6 Premier League sides are obviously looking at him, but he's a real threat. Thomas Frank's done a wonderful job there. He's got them playing some very good football. They're very patient. And that's why they've got to go into this favourites. I saw Swansea about a month and a half ago, I think it was. They're nice and solid. They'll stay in their positions. They rely on Ayew a lot. To get into those playoffs late on in the season, they were scoring some late penalties. Yeah. They were very, very fortunate. Now, you've got to give them a chance, absolutely, because Barnsley were a good team, but they got through that one. But all day long for me, Brentford. But I think there'll be a lot of goals in it. Yeah,
10-11. Goals for you, Brentford for you, Nicky?
Quite an interesting game, to be honest with you, and it could be about the 2 strikers, Toney and Ayew. 2 managers as well, which I'd love to see them be given the opportunity in the Premier League. Steve Cooper with Liverpool Academy, and then obviously he's with England as well. And Thomas Frank. I played against Brentford many a times, and it was never really. It's just a club what you never thought would be in this situation. But all of a sudden, after what Mick said there, it's a club which is well run. They were unlucky last season. The boy Watkins left, and you thought maybe they're going to struggle. It's not really been the case. They score goals for fun. It could be a really interesting matchup. This could Swansea get back into the Premier League, and could it be the first time for Brentford to get into the Premier League? Brentford are favourites, but I worry when with favourites in the playoffs. We were favourites, weren't we, Mickey, with Sunderland, and we got beat. It's not always the case. That it's not as simple as that. I think Swansea have got a say in this.
Yeah,
it just feels like their time.
It does, because last year should have been their time.
Yeah. I think over the last, it's kind of been a build-up.
Yeah.
To like, right, okay, you always think you're ready to go into the Premier League. You've got to get the job done. They would like to finish in the top 2 spots, but I think the side that came down for the Premier League looks strong anyway. But I look at this Brentford team and the way that Thomas Frank's got them all set up, and it'll be a lovely story. It really would. Look, how they're going to do next season, you know, that's up to them. But I think it'd be a fantastic story if they got there.
And just walk you through, I know you watch quite a lot of lower league football, Mickey, so Blackpool against Lincoln City in the League One playoff. Which way can you see that one going?
I fancy Blackpool. And I don't really like saying that, because Michael Appleton, who's manager at Lincoln, he's Manchester lad, isn't he? I mean, he's a really good guy. And I spoke to him when Sunderland played in the Johnson Pate Trophy. And he was trying to work out how to beat Sunderland, and obviously got the job done in the semi-finals, didn't he? But it'd be a nice story for him if he could do that. But I just see Blackpool at the moment scoring goals, look a real threat going forward. And I think Neil Critchley's done a very good job there. And I think when you look at those 2 ties that they had in the semi-finals, they certainly look up for it.
Yeah, Newport going and taking on Morecambe as well. What's your thoughts there?
Well, I watched Morecambe. I did the Tranmere game when they played them away, and boy, were they organised. Derek Adams, I mean, he just gets everybody sat in. He relies on Carlos Mendes breaking forward on that left-hand side, who's had a wonderful season. He's got great ability. He drifted out the game a little bit, but when he certainly got himself back into it, boy, he's got some talent. Real good talent, yeah. It's a hard one to kind of call, isn't it? Michael Flynn over the last 4 or 5 years, I mean, he's had some brilliant runs in the Cups, hasn't he?
Yeah.
FA Cups, League Cups. They beat a lot of Premier League sides as well, but yeah, I think I'd stick with Morecambe just for their organisation, and I think it'd be a great story for him and them and Derek Adams.
Yeah, 10-11 Brentford, 15-8 Morecambe, 13-10 Blackpool. It is a lottery, isn't it, though, Nicky? Final day, it's all or nothing, isn't it, for these teams? You've played in similar games to this.
Yeah, but you know, it's a very difficult season what they have. I mean, it's like nearly 60 games these guys play. This is the best place to, you know, if you're starting your career off, it's so difficult. And for it to come, it's a great day out for them. But if you don't get the victory, it's very disappointing. You know, you're that step away from getting rewarded from a difficult season. And it is tough, and there's a lot of pressure on it. We talk about the Champions League. There is pressure, equal pressure on this as well, you know, because it means so much. It means so much financially to the football clubs and obviously to the players to take it to the next level. So it's a huge weekend, and I'm including Champions League in that as well, and these playoff games. And I wish him all the very best, but what you need is, you don't need someone like Mickey Gray taking the penalties. Never really fancied it, did you, Mick? Be honest.
Do you know, I remember.
Were you a designated penalty taker?
No, I was number 7.
wasn't.
So were you hiding? You
back.
didn't think? So did you practice in the build-up?
And we practiced, never missed. We went to the
No,
stadium,
never.
we put all the crowd and everything
Did
behind.
Summerby take one?
He took a very good
Can
one.
I tell
out.
you? Listen, do you know what happened though? I scored my penalty and he missed his. He went on to about 40 grand a week and I went on to play for Tamworth.
I always remember a quote. We were in the dressing room, and this is what their managers should be saying as well to Brentford, Swansea, Blackpool, Lincoln, Morecambe, and Newport: is play the game, not the occasion.
Yeah.
And I think we went there, although our game was absolutely fantastic from start to finish. I think some of our players played the occasion, not the game.
Yeah. Well, he played for Bradford as well, didn't he, Nicky? So it's not all bad. It's not all bad. You played at Bradford.
Yeah, but I was lucky because I had the one with Sunderland, and then I was with Glenolder with Swindon Town, where all your pals are there, your family's there. In the first half, 1-0, second half, 2-0, 3-0. They've gone 3-1, 3-2, 3-3. Well, can I just tell you, my bottle has gone. The dream's over. I thought we're not making it. We ended up getting a penalty at the end and managed to make it, and it's just exhausting. But it's the dream in it, and that's expect lots of that. Expect lots of action. Don't take your eye off the screen. Don't go and have a cup of tea because anything can happen.
Yeah, it is that way, isn't it, in the playoffs? So what's going to happen in the Euros? Let's just round off our chat. Of course, the fast approaching. Who, Nicky, are you tipping for glory at the Euros?
I'm going to say England. I always do it. I think we've got some fantastic young players. Now, obviously, we're going to find out what sort of fitness levels they're at because it's been a difficult season. I think if they have a good competition here now, it builds up towards 2022, and we have some wonderful talent. All your Grealish, your Fodens, all these boys here now. You think about your Bamfords and all. I don't think Bamford's in it, but you just look at some of these players, what we've got coming through now, and how lucky we are to see them come through. You look at the right back. There's about 5 players for the right back spot there. They've got some really good players. If you can get it right, if you can get the belief right, why can't they do it? I say that all the time, but even more so now with these young players what have come in and they stamp their authority and they're doing well in the Premier League.
Yeah, I would ask Mickey Gray whether or not he fancies England, but he's got a bit of previous, haven't you, Mickey, as far as England are concerned? Let's just have a look at this.
It's coming home, it's coming, football's coming home, it's coming home, it's coming, football's coming home.
Right, Michael.
The only one I know.
Remember that? There you go.
I think we went
He
over
looked
there.
good there, didn't he, Nicky? He looked good.
We were supposed to be
Very good,
serious
Michael.
that time, weren't we?
Very
But
good.
it
We
was never
dragged a
going to
few
happen.
people in as well after that, didn't we?
Hey?
We dragged a few people in after that as well. We had to drag them all in. I was doing a bit of busking at the time. And I don't know what were you doing over there, Mick?
I was working for England.
Oh, no, Michael!
But, I mean, brilliant stuff, great memories, and there was a belief, and there has been a belief for England. I mean, it's a youngish squad, and after what's been a difficult season for all these teams, maybe it does give England a bit of an edge, because some ageing legs, even Belgium, they have got quite a few older players in there.
I think now, probably since maybe the 90s, I think there's a lot of optimism. Nick touched on it there about the young talent that we've got going forward. And we really have. I mean, we've got some sensational players. And of them all, Declan Rice, to me, I think he's absolutely outstanding. I really do.
This year he's come of age, hasn't he? I think wasn't quite ready for me maybe last year. He was coming in the England team, but he was almost there. But that West Ham team has brought him on a ton.
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. And I'm going to say this, and it'll be a little bit controversial. He's our best centre-half. And it sounds silly because he won't play there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. He plays a holding midfield player, but he could be an unbelievable centre-half. He really could. And that's where our problem is. And I think that's where we're just going to fall short. Harry Maguire, yes, but who plays alongside him?
I mean, Stones has been a revelation, hasn't he?
has.
And we might get away with that.
And you always say, John Stones has been great because he's got Diaz alongside him. John Stones has been great because he had Vincent Kompany alongside him. And that is the big problem I've got. And don't forget, he made that big mistake last time England played as well.
Yeah.
So hopefully he can nullify that and there's no mistakes. But I think, yeah, absolutely, we're a semi-final team. We're a final team without any question. But France, Griezmann, Mbappe, I mean, they've just got, super talent. midfield players they've got, outstanding players defensively. And then you've got, experience of Lloris in goal, whether you love him or hate him. He's got that match experience playing for his country. So you've got to look at them. Belgium, absolutely. Portugal, it's probably going to be a swan song for Ronaldo, unless he sticks around for another year and plays in the World Cup, which I'm sure he wants to do.
Yeah.
Germany, don't write them off in competitions. I know they've had a bit of a slip over the last 3 or 4 years in big competitions. And Spain, but my outsider one to look for, and I think they're unbeaten, is it for a year, I think, or maybe a little bit longer than that, is Italy. All the big guns, all the big nations are going to be there, so it's going to be tough to do it, and whoever picks it up at the end deserves it.
Yeah, it's going to be a great tournament. It's been a great show, hasn't it, Nicky? You've enjoyed yourself? Going swimming now?
It's a breeze, by the way. Wonderful. We could talk forever. Can we talk about anything else? It's an exciting time now, isn't it? I mean, let's get one thing straight. I mean, the way football as a whole, I'm talking around the world, has conducted itself through very, very difficult times. It's great to see the crowds back now, with a smile on their faces. And I think the way the football clubs have gone about the business, and the players as well. And you can talk about how much money these guys are on. There's nothing better for them. What they do is play in front of crowds. And it's difficult not playing in front of crowds, but they've entertained. They've kept us at it, even though it's difficult. You might argue with it, well, hang on, it's not as good as what it is without 70,000. I think they've done a great job. And people are starting to get a smile back on their faces, and there's plenty of football. Great weekend coming up, the Euros. It's happy days, isn't it? We're getting it back. It's coming back, Michael.
Take your time, Nick. It's getting dark outside now. Don't worry about it. Go and get your swim shorts.
I'd like to finish it off in style, Michael. Little song for you. It's coming home. My bet would be, I'll be honest with you, I'm gonna have a bet as well. Is I think England will win Qatar 2022 because it's the perfect time as well. It's not the end of the season after a very difficult season. They're going to have the Euros, the experience of that. And I just think you help these players. Don't put too much pressure on them. Help them, nurture them. And hopefully you do well in this tournament. But either way, it goes into 2022. And I've been saying it for some time. I think they'll win it. How's that for you?
There you go. We're all coming to Nicky's, aren't we, to stay over, aren't we, Mickey? Has he invited you?
There's no room with the
He's
dogs
not coming.
and the kids anymore.
Not allowed in.
He's still bad.
He won't be wearing that suit, so you won't get him with that tie.
Brilliant to have you, Nicky. Listen, you go have a swim, mate. Chill out. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you very much.
And thanks to Mickey Gray as well. It's been a torturous half. I mean, you're used to it, aren't you? You've been used to it.
You get that every day.
We're looking forward to the next one. Listen, that is it as far as the football show is concerned. Thanks to Mickey, thanks to Nicky as well, and thanks for your company. Do join us again next week and enjoy the Champions League final.